So GM recently announced that it was closing 5 different plants in the United States and 1 in Canada and cutting up to about 14,000 jobs, despite getting a massive tax cut from the Trump administration and Republicans. Now, that they said that these cuts would save the company around $4.5 billion by 2020. In fact, CEO Mary Barra told investors, quote, "The move will make General Motors more agile, resilient, and profitable while the economy's still revving." Hey, well, how do you slow down the economy? You cut jobs. Apparently, they didn't quite get the memo that it's consumer demand that drives jobs. But anyway, so that statement right there kind of makes you think, well, wait a minute, maybe GM is struggling because they need to be resilient and profitable, right? And that, man, I guess this is a savvy business move. It kind of sucks that we've got to cut all these jobs, but we've got to retool and we've got to do all this stuff, right? To make sure that we are profitable into the future. Well, here's the thing. Wall Street took that and they're like, bravo, bravo. I love the fact that you cut so many jobs. In fact, we're going to reward you by hiking up the price of your stock by nearly 5%. That's how much their stock went up. But here's the thing. On Main Street, we know that GM is far from struggling. In fact, the company has apparently spent $10.6 billion since the year of 2015 buying back its own stock, according to filings with the SEC. Now, here's the thing. What do stock buybacks do? I mean, is buying back your stock good for the company? Well, no, it actually doesn't do anything for the company's productive capacity. It doesn't do anything for the workers. It doesn't do anything for innovation. It just basically is none other than a gift to shareholders. And that's it. It makes stocks more valuable. And when you're an investor or a senior executive, well then, guess what? You buy back your own stock, you end up making a ton of money when you cash out. Well, congratulations. These executives just made millions of dollars over the past few years in stock buybacks alone. And look, GM isn't the only company that's done this. We've seen a lot of companies do this, right? You had a bunch of corporations that once they got the tax cut, they took that money, and instead of investing it back into the company, they basically invested it right back into their own pockets. That's it. And look, this year alone, for example, corporations have announced nearly $1 trillion in buybacks, according to TrimTab's investment research. And the figure for the whole year could exceed $1 trillion. That is more than the student loan debt. That is more than credit card debt. And it's just these corporations taking their money and buying back their own stock, which does nothing than other than put money into the executives' pockets. That's it. That's the only function. It's just to make rich people even richer. But of course, look, you can't put all the blame on the GOP tax cuts. GM actually started doing this program back in 2015. Now, that's less than 6 years after a bankruptcy process, which cost us, the taxpayer, $11 billion. See, we bailed GM out. We bailed them out. We gave them taxpayer money because their company was failing, because they were putting out substandard vehicles and they were taking too many risks and they weren't profitable. So the American taxpayer, the American government, took our money during the financial crisis, and instead of helping regular people, homeowners that were underwater, well, we gave GM, we gave these companies billions of dollars. And we said, okay, now be solvent and actually create jobs. Now what happened? For a while, they were profitable, and they still are profitable. And yes, there were a lot of jobs that are saved. But now, after massive tax cuts and deregulation, well, now this company says 15,000 workers, nearly 15,000 workers, we're going to get rid of you. And we're going to get rid of several car lines. We're going to shutter some factories. And hey, sad day for you, right? And that's it. Now, the GM, as I said before, had announced $5 billion worth of stock buybacks. This is how much they spent. in March 2015. And then they added another $4 billion later that year, and in 2017 announced a further $5 billion in buybacks. Now, how much have they actually done so far? They've been on about $1.6 billion in stock buybacks, but they plan to do much more. Now, here's the problem with this. If they have the money for stock buybacks, then certainly they've got the money to retool these plants to create more SUVs and trucks, which are right now more popular in America anyway. And low gas prices, more Americans want to drive gas guzzlers. They want to drive big trucks. They want to drive big SUVs. And of course, you had sales of sedans that were declining. And look, we understand that that's just basically market forces at work. But what they could do is, okay, here's what we're going to do. We know that the cars like the Chevy Cruze, I have one, by the way, and other small compact sedans, they're not selling as well. So let's retool our plants to actually go and build vehicles that American people want. And that's fair, right? And that's business, right? Now, instead of doing that, they're shipping production of the Chevy Blazer to Mexico, pulling the plug on the Cruze, the Volt, and most of the rest of their sedans. And so they're moving production to other places and ending certain cars, right? The production of certain cars. They don't need to do that, though. And so they just cost a lot of jobs for basically no reason. And here's the thing. They've gotten rewarded by the markets for doing this. You know, good job firing 14,000 people around the holidays and then stuffing more money in the pockets of your executives. Again, they were not broke. They had money. GM, for example, even if they didn't have the tax cuts, even if they didn't already have all this profit lined up, which, by the way, in the first 3 quarters of 2018, they made $6 billion in revenue. Now, they also have, in profit, $6.5 billion sitting overseas right now. Now, they could use that to save the jobs. They could use that to save the plants, right? I mean, look, here's the thing. They could repatriate that money. It's not like the Republican tax cuts didn't include a gigantic tax holiday. No, that was one of the centerpieces. Even though, of course, when Bush did it, it failed. It failed spectacularly. Okay, all these corporations brought home billions of dollars in revenue, and what happened? They ended up cutting jobs anyway, and that's what happened. Now the Republicans claim, oh no, this is going to create jobs if you repatriate money and cut taxes for corporations and the rich. But what did it do? Well, we're obviously seeing what's happening now. We're seeing massive layoffs. We're seeing shuttering of plants. We're seeing all this manufacturing that is moving out of the country. Still, even after we gave them everything that they wanted, everything that they had asked for, it is never enough. It is never enough for them. And this isn't some left-wing talking point. You can see this happening right in front of your eyes. We've given them everything they wanted. And they're still, again, cutting jobs, outsourcing, and paying you substandard wages. I thought your wages were supposed to go up. So some of you got a one-time bonus. And that's nice, but it's scraps compared to what you would have actually gotten had you have been guaranteed a living wage, a wage that kept up with both inflation and productivity. But here's the thing. Republicans and corporations are lying to you because, look, Republicans are on the side of business. They're owned by business lock, stock, and barrel. The businesses themselves are immoral profit-making machines. That is their only purpose, is to make more profit. And so people have to stop being surprised at the idea that corporations don't actually care about you. Oh, what are you talking about? My business cares about me. My business cares about in America. We're an American business. No, they're not. They're multinational. These things are not people. They are robots. And they have been programmed to do one thing, to extract profit at any cost. Not cost to them, cost to you. And so if replacing you with a robot costs them less money, well, then they're going to do it. If moving to Mexico costs them less money than continuously employing Americans, then that's what they're going to do. If making certain things costs them less money, or using less inferior materials, or cutting corners, if that costs them less money, they're going to do it. That's why you have rules. That's why you have regulations. I know Republicans talk as if some regulations are some terrible things, but it's really just rules on what you can and cannot do. And it is setting boundaries for these corporations who, again, his main concern is squeezing as much profit out for their shareholders as they can. You've got to have rules to constrain what they can and can't do in the pursuit of that profit. It just makes sense. So again, they have no loyalty to a country. They have no loyalty to a state or a community. They are loyal to profit, and that is it. So don't be surprised. Don't be shocked that even after giving them everything that they've wanted on bailouts and tax cuts, that they will still end up choosing the option that will get them the most short-term profit, because that is how they operate today. I don't know what to do to change that, but I do know what we should do is we should stop giving them money. We should stop bailing them out. You want to believe in an actual free market? Well, then maybe we should actually let the free market play out. We should have let them play out in, when they were crashing. And instead of bailing them out, just let them fall. And have other people replace them. Have other companies replace them. Maybe it would have been better long term had these companies failed. Had we actually had a free market, which we don't. The free market actually doesn't necessarily even exist. It's a hypothetical. But what we need is a regulated market with a strong labor base, with strong labor rights, strong labor unions, living wages, etc., with benefits. By the way, benefits like, for example, Medicare for All would actually help businesses because they wouldn't have to pay for medical costs of their employees. They wouldn't have to worry about it. And the employees wouldn't have to worry about staying at a job that they hate or they can't do because of medical costs. So it's a win-win. What we need is we need better policy. We need good policy, and we need rules to constrain these companies to make sure that we police them into doing the right thing. Because as you've seen, giving them everything that they want is obviously not working. We need to try something else. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.